feel like I just talked to you.
Oh, we love our emergency pods, don't we?
Emergency pod. Sound the alarm. This is the Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan. He's Ruben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. We were not planning on a podcast today. It is Monday afternoon, but when Howie Roseman puts up the bat signal, here we are. He trades for Kevin Byard, the all-pro safety from the Tennessee Titans. Rube, initial reaction. What do you got?
Initial reaction is if this move is half as good as the last trade with the Titans, then Howie's a lock for executive of the year again. It's an upgrade. I'm not sure he's the player he was a few years ago. He's had a really nice career. He hasn't missed a game since the middle of his rookie year. He's got an NFL long 111 consecutive game streak, highest among safeties. He's just a really steady playmaking safety. And, certainly an upgrade. You give up a 5 and a 6 and Terrell Edmonds. I never have to say his name again.
We like him, by the way. It's not, it's just, we don't know how to say it.
Yeah.
Because Tio ruined us forever.
Look, it's been a revolving door at safety. They start out with Kevin and Sidney and Justin Evans. Justin Evans wasn't even competing for the job at the start of all this. Edmonds was kind of the guy, and then Evans makes a late run, wins the job. He's been hurt most of the year. Edmonds comes in. Reed's missed a couple games. Sidney misses 3 games. It's just been a revolving door, both at corner and safety. He'll be the 16th different defensive back that will play for this team this year. And that's already the third most in history. And it's week 8. 5 of those guys weren't even on the 53 when the season started. Roby and Garner and Josiah Scott. So these are guys, practice squad call-ups and guys from outside. My initial reaction is it's a significant upgrade, even if he's not the player he was when he was an All-Pro. When he had eight picks in a season in 17, still a significant upgrade for this defense. They really needed a move like this.
Yeah, safety was a position we've been really talking about all year, even before the injuries, that
right.
If there's a spot they need to – I guess it was linebacker too originally, but those guys have played all right. But you looked at safety and you said, this isn't going to be good enough probably. And I think they really like Reed Blankenship. There's a lot to like about him, and he'll be the other starter, you would assume. So you'll have – an all-middle Tennessee State starting safety duo, which is fun. Byard's been a really good player for a long time. Like you said, really consistent, doesn't miss time, has some position flexibility. He'll play in the box. He'll play free safety. He'll play at the nickel on occasion. Good ball skills. We've seen that throughout his time in his career. A Philly native, didn't play high school ball in Philly, but early portion of his childhood spent here. So I think there's a good chance he's pretty excited to come back. And it struck me that the Eagles' 2 biggest losses in free agency were Javon Hargrave and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Here we are not even halfway through the season, and they're better in both spots.
I put T.J. Edwards in that group too. I think he was as big a loss.
Oh, I disagree with that, but that's fine.
Yeah, but that's off topic. We don't go off topic in emergency pods. That's one of our rules. But yeah, there's no doubt about it. Now, one concern is you now have 3/4 of a secondary in their 30s.
Yeah, you have Bradbury, Slay, Byard, and Roby when he's back.
Roby, when he comes back. But look, the thing you love about Byard, he's played more snaps than any defensive player in the league since 17. Played like 98.6% of the defensive snaps. He's like a Kelsey on the defensive side of the ball. Not as good, but certainly has been an elite player. 27 career interceptions is second most among active players since 2017, or most not active, but among anybody since 2017. Xavier Howard has 29. He's got a long history of being a productive player. He's had 4 more picks, 5 of the last 7 seasons. Had 4 last year. Doesn't have any this year. Um, but look, this is a move, and I mean, I think we've talked about getting a safety in every. I think we talked about it last night that we know how he's going to be, looking for a guy. And who was the guy that made the AJ Brown trade? Was it John Robinson? What was his name?
Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah, I know he's gone. I mean, he's not anywhere. He didn't even get like a entry level assistant to the assistant job. But look, this isn't going to measure up to that move. I mean, he's much later in his career, but he's exactly what they need. And for this team that's 6-1 and shares the best record in the league and is trying to make a run now, it's just a perfect move. It's exactly what they need.
He's a really good fit. Excited to see what he looks like in this defense. Smart player, which I think
excited to see what jersey number he's wearing.
There aren't that many options. He'll probably just take the 26 that Edmonds was wearing.
Yeah, I think he wore 31 in Tennessee. So
yeah, well, that's available actually, right? I mean, Mario Goodrich is on the practice squad, but he can probably wrestle that away from him.
Yeah, pay him a few bucks. I don't even know how that works.
I think they'll just be like, "Hey, Mario, here's 26."
Yeah, I don't know how that works. Like, I mean, if a guy's on the 53, you got to make a little deal. But if he's on the 53 and Goodrich is on the practice squad, I wonder if he can just like claim it.
I don't think he has to do anything. I think Mario Goodrich shows up tomorrow and there's a different number in his locker.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Here, Mr. Byard.
Yeah,
here's your jersey. Yeah. And I think this will go a long way to really solidifying, that position. And Justin Evans, I mean, he's on IR. I don't know if we'll ever see. I mean, who knows? He's been hurt so much. It's not like he was playing great when he got hurt.
He was fine though, and like honestly, it helps your depth if you still have Justin Evans and you have Sidney Brown. Who, look, I think if they didn't make a move, we're all excited to watch Sidney play the rest of the year. But that's something you do if this is a team that isn't a serious Super Bowl contender.
Right.
You let him play out the string and you see what you have. You don't do that with this team because you don't know what you have. And if you can solidify that position, you have to do it.
And I wonder if there'll be some sort of role for Sidney.
Yeah, I think we can still see some sort of rotation. Like the Eagles are rotating at linebacker still. I think that Byard's good enough that you keep him on the field. And I think Blankenship is good enough that you just keep him on the field. Those are your two starters. But we've seen Sidney play in the slot a little bit. And I think he's a different body type, obviously, than Bradley Roby and Josiah Scott. So I think there might be a role for him there too.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think you throw the Middle Tennessee State guys out. They're your safeties. Are going to play all the snaps, and then you sort it out. I mean, to have stability after this just revolving door in the secondary is going to be huge, just from a standpoint of communication, standpoint of guys just knowing each other, understanding each other. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Reed and Byard have a relationship, just from college.
Think they do.
Yeah, I mean, you would think like just working out together during the off season back at middle.
It's funny because I know I've talked to Reed about Byard before, but for the life of me, I cannot remember what he said about him.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible they worked out together in Murfreesboro. Is that where it is?
I don't know.
Zach Berman would know that. I'm sure he's been there. Oh yeah, Murfreesboro. Yeah, but yeah, and that's huge. And I'm sure like these guys all know. I'm sure. I mean, AJ Brown played with him for 3 years. Not that they're going to be lining up next to each other, but you never know with this secondary the way things have gone.
AJ already tweeted about it. Slay
did he?
Tweeted about it.
I'm sure Slay and Bradbury know Byard just from Pro Bowls back when that was a thing, and just from veterans and defensive backs in the league. I mean, they really have with everyone healthy, they really have a solid secondary now.
They do, and I guess the biggest question in the secondary now becomes Bradley Roby because we just haven't seen a ton of him. But this team doesn't have a weakness. What's the weakness? They have weaker positions, but this was the only weakness, I thought.
Yeah.
And I say that after they just shut down the best offense in the NFL. So without their best starter at the position.
I guess their weakness is fourth receiver. I don't know.
I think Lamine is a pretty good fourth.
Punter, and they had a, well, I'm saying if Quez is out, but even the punter had a good game. Yeah, they have Julio, but I mean, yeah, we'll see. It's amazing how many players Howie has added since the season began. I mean,
he's a fun GM to cover for that, because, and he always says that the talent acquisition period does not end the first week of March, and he means it. He means it more than any GM in the league.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even end at the trade deadline, because he can still sign someone. Like it goes on all the time, and that's the fun part of Howie Roseman, is that he's just always looking to improve. It's why, whenever there's someone up on the trading block, the Eagles are always one of the teams. Always, because, yeah, why not make a phone call?
They're going to be rumored for every possible trade, because Howie's going to pick up the phone, and then the agent's going to be like, well, the Eagles are interested. I mean, it's just, you see they're linked to every single potential free agent and trade guy. So you think about how many. I mean, we could sit and make a list from Zach Cunningham to Roby to. I mean, there's just so many guys who. I mean, Zach Cunningham came in before the season, but after training camp started. Just so many of those guys.
Just think about the talent that Howie's traded for. The talent on this team that Howie's traded for. You have A.J. Brown. You have DeAndre Swift. You have Kevin Byard. Like, you have some huge, important players on this team that he created out of a trade.
And other players that he traded for the pick. Slade was a trade.
Uh-huh.
Who else?
We don't have to do this.
Albert was a trade. Albert O.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking through, but I mean, he's going to find talent any possible way he can. Guys out of work, guys on practice squads, trades. He's gone from one of the worst to one of the best. I mean, he's really, really good at this.
Yeah. Was he one of the worst?
I don't know if he was ever one of the worst, but he certainly has improved.
Yeah, it's so surreal to see. I'm on the field yesterday, and Howie walks out, and it's like pandemonium. It's people chanting his name.
I know.
Imagine, 7-8 years ago, if I told you that people would be chanting Howie Roseman's name as he walks out on the field.
Well, they would be chanting it, just in a little different context.
Be some extra words attached to it.
He loves it too, and like he's so he's got his shades on in his briefcase, and he like looks up a little bit and like does a little half wave. Yeah. He loves it.
It's like the closest thing you can have to like being a player and getting introduced before a game. Yeah,
I mean, it's like Beatlemania, Howie mania.
Yeah, and we didn't
really Howie was on the Ed Sullivan Show.
We didn't really talk about the return in the trade. It's a 5th round pick, a 6th round pick, and Edmonds. Like, all right, I would have thought it would take more than that. And Edmonds is like, he's the guy who wouldn't have had a role now that you have fired anyway. So I guess Tennessee's like, we got to play out this string of games. We need a veteran we can just plug and play. Fine, you can take him.
He's 4 years younger.
Yeah,
but he's obviously not as good. I think it was about the picks for them.
5th and a 6th. That's all it took.
I'm shocked, honestly.
Yeah, you do that 7 days a week, right?
It's fleecing season. I mean, look, we don't know. Maybe he comes in and he's not who we thought he was, but I never would have dreamed you could get that kind of player for a 5 and a 6. I thought it would take a 4.
We were talking about, we didn't mention him specifically, but we were talking about a possible trade. And when you look back at Howie's history, it's been mostly 4s and a 3rd for Golden Tate. And I don't know if he's as likely to make a trade with a 3rd round pick after seeing how Golden Tate worked out.
Right.
So, but I mean, to get him for a 5th and a 6th, I mean, Howie can conjure up a 5th and a 6th out of nowhere
in his sleep. I mean, Yeah, I mean, he might trade Josiah Scott back to the Steelers for a fifth. But yeah, and I mean, they have all those comp picks next year, so they're not going to be lacking in picks in the 24 draft. And 5 and 6 are, look, there's been some good players taken in those rounds, but yeah, I'll take an all-pro safety instead of those picks any day of the week.
Especially in win now mode, and the Eagles are obviously in win now mode. If you're wondering about the salary cap implications, it's not a big deal. It's based on his contract, and most of it will end up as dead money for the Titans. It ends up like $2.4 million in cap space for the Eagles, but you're losing Edmonds, so it's even less than that.
Right.
I think Brad Spielberger had the exact figure. If I can find it real quick. So it's about 1.4 million added to their cap this year.
Yeah, and I mean, they'll have the flexibility. I mean, I think he's signed through next year.
He is, but it's hard to imagine him playing on that deal.
On that deal, yeah.
Yeah, but at least you have the option to, if it works out, you have his rights, and you can figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
think he'll either not be here or they'll sign him to a 2-year deal.
Yeah, so his contract for next year, he has a $9.6 million base salary, so and another $4 million in roster bonuses, so $14 million cap hit next year. That's not going to work the way it is. So, but you can figure that out down the line if he wants to be here, if you want to keep him.
Yeah, no doubt.
What's the weakest spot on this team?
Punter.
57-yarder.
Punter. Still punter.
All right, let's take a real quick break. We'll come back.
Backup quarterback.
We'll talk about it. Yeah, maybe. But we'll get into some of that maybe a little bit on the other side, and then we'll wrap this thing up. A quick emergency podcast.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and nissanusa.com today.
Catch all the sports action and more at Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Whether it's the money line or the pass line, there's something for everyone in a great sports book. Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Normally I wait till the end to do this, but since this is an emergency podcast, people were asking for it. If you ask for an emergency podcast and you have not rated or subscribed to this podcast, get on it. Wherever you get your pods, if you're watching on YouTube, click that like button and subscribe there as well. We appreciate that. Rube, it was kind of good on Zach Berman, by the way. You mentioned him earlier. He saw the report of the trade come down. I didn't even see it. But he must have had Twitter up, and he saw the report come down from me and Rappaport and was able to ask Nick Sirianni. Put him on the spot a little bit, but you have to do that if there's news. Nick didn't want to comment on it, I think, because there was another player involved in the trade. So I guess he hadn't talked to everyone on his team yet.
Deny it, but he pretty much confirmed it. Yeah. With what he said.
Yeah, I think, and I respect that about Nick, because that's a tricky thing when there's another player involved and you're sending a player for player. Anything else from Nick's presser? I asked him about Jalen. I jumped on the grenade for this press conference. We got to ask about the injured quarterback. He said, he gave credit again to Jalen for playing through the injury, said he's in good spirits today. We don't know much else.
Yeah, Dave asked if he's concerned that the injury is going to be an issue, and he said, well, he's in good spirits. Well, what kind of answer is that? But he didn't, he didn't answer at all. And, it makes you wonder just exactly where that knee is and, how much it's hampering him. Jan sure won't tell us.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an injury that he's going to play through.
Yeah.
But I think it is fair to wonder if it lingers, how long it lingers, if it affects him. Will that bye week be enough in a few weeks to help him heal up? I think those are all fair questions.
And it makes you wonder I think Brian Johnson, after that initial series in the red zone, called a good game, but it makes you wonder, Like, why are you calling these quarterback draws if this guy's got a bad knee? I don't get that. But look, we know Jalen will play through. It's just a matter of, I mean, it clearly affected him. You know, you could see, I mean, he just didn't have that explosion running. He's got a big brace on there. So it's not ideal, but I thought he had a pretty good game considering. I thought he had a real good game other than the pick six in which he bounced back from. But, man, you'd love to see this guy just be healthy for a full season. It's going to be hard, I guess, the way he plays. I'm not really clear on exactly when he got hurt.
I'm sure he'll clarify that for us on Wednesday.
Yeah. He's never clarified anything for us.
Didn't happen in that game, so it pre-existing maybe on the turf at MetLife.
Yeah.
Maybe before then in LA. It's tough to tell.
Yeah, and the thing about Jalen, like, as dynamic and exciting as he is on the field, he's the exact opposite in his Wednesday press conference.
He's much better after games.
He is.
Yeah, which I kind of get. I think in his mind there's like stuff to talk about after games.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. What else? The other, and he was asked about the other injured guys. Nick Sirianni he said they're hopeful for a lot of those guys. I think the key one there is probably Reed Blankenship, who had that ribs injury. Well, I mean, we'll find out more in the week. I think that's a legitimate one where he might not really know yet.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, so they're going to. I mean, look, they've had so many injuries, but other than Avante, they haven't lost anyone for the season. I think Lane's going to get better. He won't practice much. He's just so tough. But yeah, they're going to start getting some guys back and hopefully not keep losing guys. Yeah,
we'll see. Overall, pretty good day for the Eagles. They're coming off a big win. They get a Pro Bowl All-Pro safety in the mix. Feeling pretty good. And I'm feeling pretty good. Let's wrap this up, huh?
Okay, let's do it.
I'm tired. I haven't got any sleep. I just want to watch this Phillies game and go to bed.
You gonna like fall asleep on the couch like around the 7th?
I'm gonna try really hard not to. I'm drinking coffee right now just so I can stay awake for the game.
That one game, I guess it was the first game in Arizona. Were they up like 4-1 or something?
Yeah.
And I fell asleep, and like I look at my phone the next day, and I think I guess it was a game they lost 6-5 or something.
Yeah. I
just had no idea. Sometimes it's hard to stay awake through the night. I'm going to try.
All right. Wanted to mention too, our Tuesday pod, we have to push it back this week, scheduling conflicts. So you'll have pods on Wednesday and Thursday. No one's listening anymore. I should have mentioned this at the beginning of this.
They're all listening, Dave. Because they know they might get a story about like me looking at trains in Philly.
Get to the good stuff, guys. All right, let's wrap this up. For Ruben, I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you later in the week.